Earlier this week, the Kenyan Football Association announced the acquisition of the services of former South African international Benni McCarthy for their country. And so let's look at his profile. Benni McCarthy played for Seven Stars in South Africa, played for Cape Town Spurs in South Africa, then moved to Ajax in the Netherlands, moved to Celta Vigo in Spain, and he's most remembered for his time with FC Porto in Portugal as well. So he won the Champions League with Porto under Jose Mourinho. He's the first South African player ever to win the Champions League, and he's also one of the few African players to have won the Champions League. Afterwards, he spent some time in the English Premier League with Blackburn in the Premier League. Then he also spent some time in West Ham United as well. And then finally, before he retired, he spent some time with Orlando Pirates back in South Africa. He's also South Africa's record all-time goal scorer in the national team. Let's also look at his managerial profile. He was an assistant coach for Sint-Truiden in Belgium between 2015 and 2016. Then he became the coach of Cape Town City between 2017 and 2019. Then he became the coach of Amazulu FC also between 2020 and 2022. Then the big one for him was assistant coach to Erik ten Hag at Manchester United between 2022 and 2024. Remember, he spoke about his time with Marcus Rashford and other issues. Let's look at the table for Kenya. Kenya in the World Cup qualifiers has Ivory Coast leading by 10 points. Kenya is fourth in a 6-team group with 5 points, half of Cote d'Ivoire, and they have very serious teams here. Gabon also a serious contender. Burundi doing very well. Gambia, which is surprising, Gambia is actually almost last as well. So Kenya actually doing very well. For more conversation on this, we've been joined by a Kenyan sports journalist, joined us all the way from South Korea. His name is Nashon Owano. Hello, sir. Good evening. Welcome to ABC Sports World.
Good evening, Eugene. Thank you so much for having me. Good evening to your viewers. Thank you so much for having me on ABC Sports today.
It's so good to speak to you after a long time. Hope you are doing very well in South Korea.
Yes, I'm doing very well. It's great to see you once again.
Yeah, so for our viewers, Owano Nash is one of the best sports journalists you find from Kenya, and so with him, we'll have a bit of perspective on this. So first of all, let's look at the Kenyan situation. This is not the first time we are going to have a lot of profile. Kenya traditionally is not a footballing country. Now, let us know the issues in Kenyan football. Let us know your judgment on the Kenyan football, especially because this Kenyan Football Association has been banned by FIFA a few years ago.
Well, it's sort of like there's a lot of things that are going on in Kenyan football right now, you know. I think as you mentioned a couple of years back, we were banned by FIFA because of what they termed as political or government interference. Maybe just for some of the viewers who might not know, is in 2021, the then Minister for Sports, Ambassador Amina Mohamed, basically disbanded the Football Kenya federations in Kenya, and as a result of that, forced the current president Nick Mwendwa, to be bundled out of office, and he was actually banned from going to the office from what the government termed to be corruption cases at that particular time. As a result of that, as we know, FIFA doesn't like such kind of influence by the government. We had to be banned by FIFA, and that is something that really affected the local sports for a period of around 1 year. We're not playing international football, but I think the situation kind of changed when we had, because the backdrop of that, we had like an election process that was going on, the national elections, and we had a new government that came into force. And as a result of that, they appointed a new minister for sport, and the minister for sport sort of like reinstated the disbanded Football Kenya Federation's body. And as a result of that, FIFA recognized Kenya, and we were, the ban was sort of like lifted. So we were back to playing international football. So it was a really dark period for football fans, which basically meant that we were only participating in the domestic league, which most of the football fans termed as a friendly, because you're just playing for the the purposes of the domestic league. But then internationally, we are not really doing a lot. So it was a situation of mixed emotions for that duration of time. But then at the backdrop of that, with the new government, we had elections, and I can say that right now we have a new office in body. The then reinstated Football Kenya Federation's president, Nick Mwendwa, he tried to vie for the third term, but he did not win. So we have a new team of Football Kenya Federation officials. That is Hussein Mohammed, and for those of you who I believe most of the fans who are watching the show know of McDonald Mariga, who was an international player for Kenya. So that's the current situation with football in Kenya at the moment. And as you mentioned, now we have Benni McCarthy, who has been appointed as the head coach in Kenya. So many people are kind of optimistic about the direction that the new administration has taken in terms of restating the stature of football in Kenya.
Thank you. Now let's look at the profile of Benni McCarthy and what he brings with. We looked at his club career, the profile, and his reputation on the African continent and as well as Europe. Looking at his profile, does his appointment solve Kenya's footballing issues?
There's no that's a very interesting question that you mentioned. I don't think the appointment of Benni McCarthy is sort of like a silver bullet, sort of like a magic bullet that is going to solve all the problems that we have in Kenyan football at the moment. Because at the moment we really have a lot of pending issues. At the top of the pending issues that we have at the moment is the whole situation about stadiums. I know if you are following the AFCON qualification matches, we played most of the home matches away. There's one of the matches we played in Malawi. There are some other matches that we played, I think, in Tanzania or somewhere. So most of the matches we played out of the country, which is something that is really unheard of, because you really expect that in high-flying competitions such as those, in such of situations, you'll have like most of the home matches that are played in Kenya, but that has not been the situation because we lack the facilities. And at the moment we are sort of in a situation, we are going to be hosting the AFCON together with Tanzania and Uganda. So the issue of the facilities is sort of like a problem. And also at the backdrop of that, we have pending bills which the current administration is saying they sort of like have to handle. So it's sort of like a magic bullet having Benni McCarthy as the coach in Kenya.
Well, at his unveiling, he spoke about a few issues. He spoke about leadership. He spoke about right leadership, right mindset, and other issues. Let's look at that one. Was that a message? Was there a dig at somebody? Is there a background to that? And let's also look at the team's chances. The Harambee Stars didn't qualify for the 2025 AFCON. The group table we just saw, they are fourth in the group of 16. The Ivory Coast is leading. There's Gambia as well. What are the chances of Kenya heading into this qualifiers in the future? Does the future look bright for Kenyan football? Quickly, maybe in 30 seconds.
Yes, I think the future looks a bit brighter now that we have Benni McCarthy. I think it's very optimistic because we had the former coach who was appointed by the administration that is out of the office right now. And one of the things that people are saying is he was not the right person for the position because he kind of like didn't have the relevant experience. But having somebody like Benni McCarthy, then definitely our chances are high because you have somebody who has a wealth of experience in international football.
Thank you very much, Asante. Nashon Owano, a veteran, experienced, knowledgeable Kenyan sports journalist, joined us all the way from South Korea. Thank you very much for your time and for your insights into Kenyan football and other issues. We hope to catch up with you very same time next week when the scores are announced and other issues come up for African football. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you so much, Eugene, for having me.
Well, that was Owano Nashon, a sports journalist, joined us all the way from South Korea, who has knowledge on Kenyan football.